One night my daughter came home with tears streaming down her face. She had just returned from a Christmas gathering at her grandparents' house, to which she had been invited earlier in the week. It was evident that something had affected her deeply. Without saying a word, she handed me a small, carefully wrapped gift. "Mom, look at this," she said with a trembling voice. "Why do I have to go through this?" I could see the pain in her eyes and my heart broke for her. Delicately, I opened the package, trying to understand what had hurt her so much. To my surprise, the gift inside wasn't appropriate for a child at all. Alarmed and worried, I knew I had to do something immediately. I decided to report it to the police. That decision unleashed a chain of events that exposed the person responsible. The situation had serious consequences for that person and caused enormous problems within the family. There was a lot of drama and tension which affected relationships. But in the end, justice was served. At 44, my life was already quite different from many people's. I had a younger husband and we both worked at the same company. In fact, that's where we met when I was 35 and had just started a new career. My previous job had ended badly after my former boss made a cruel comment about my age, making me feel like I wasn't good enough. Fortunately, my new job was different. There, they valued effort and skills instead of things like age or gender. My husband, who was my supervisor at the time, always supported me and helped me believe in myself. We fell in love quickly and got married soon after. Now we have a wonderful daughter who is in 5th grade. She is kind, loves to read, and always tries to befriend everyone. Although I got along with most of my husband's family, it was never easy with his sister. She never liked that I was older than her brother and often mocked how quickly we got married. She made comments about my age and how I looked as time went by. She always found a way to criticize me, especially when I was pregnant. My sister-in-law could be especially cruel. Her words were hurtful, but I did my best to remain calm and not let them affect me. I knew it was best for my peace of mind. To my surprise, her attitude changed when she had a rushed wedding and moved far away. With her departure, I could finally enjoy the peace of preparing to welcome my daughter into the world. The birth of our daughter wasn't easy. It was a difficult and exhausting experience, but also one of the happiest moments of our lives. My husband was by my side the entire time, giving me words of love and support. His encouragement gave me the strength to face each challenge. I will never forget the moment our baby cried for the first time. My husband took my hand, tears in his eyes, and whispered how proud and grateful he was. It was a moment of absolute happiness. But only months after our daughter was born, my sister-in-law had a baby and soon began to visit us again. Although our house was an hour away from hers, I soon realized why she came so often. Her visits had a purpose. She constantly made negative comments comparing my daughter to her son. She even went so far as to say that my age showed on my daughter's face, pointing out imaginary wrinkles while praising the smooth skin of her own baby. Her words hurt, but I tried to focus on my daughter and the joys of motherhood. What baffled me most was her attitude. She never brought anything for the babies. No diapers, no toys, nothing. Instead, she left with things from our house, like baby formula and diapers, saying she didn't want to run out. It seemed like her visits were more about criticizing me and taking things for herself than spending time with the family. Fortunately, her visits ended when her husband got a new job and they moved to another state. Life became much more peaceful, and our daughter soon started elementary school. She quickly made new friends, and to my surprise, her cousin, the same child my sister-in-law always compared her to, was enrolled in the same school. Despite the tension between the adults in the family, the 3 children became very close and formed a warm and happy bond. My daughter has always been kind and caring, and she often looked after her younger cousin. When they reached 3rd grade, they were in the same class. Their teachers constantly praised her for her kindness and effort. That summer, she completed a reading project that earned her special recognition from the school. Her book review was so well written that it was published in the local newspaper. It was a huge achievement, and she received many congratulations for it. During a family gathering at my father-in-law's house, everyone started talking about her success. Relatives gathered to congratulate her, and I could see how proud they were. However, my sister-in-law didn't seem happy at all. In fact, she looked annoyed. She complained that it wasn't fair that her son didn't receive the same attention. She even claimed that the book my daughter read for the project was actually intended for her son. The truth was that the children had exchanged books during the summer and had chosen together which ones to use for their projects. My daughter's success had nothing to do with competing with anyone, but with her love of learning and the effort she had put in. But my sister-in-law's reaction made it clear that she didn't like the attention being on anyone other than her son. Despite moments like these, I've learned to focus on the good. Seeing my daughter grow into an intelligent, kind, and strong young woman has been the greatest joy of my life. Through all the challenges, my husband's love and support have kept me strong. Family relationships can be complicated, but at the heart of it all, our daughter continues to teach us the importance of kindness, strength, and facing life with an open heart. This situation also revealed the vast difference between how the children behaved and how the adults reacted. My nephew really liked the book my daughter chose for her project, and since she is generous, she lent it to him first. That small but significant gesture showed how well they supported and shared with each other, despite the tension between the adults. But when I shared my daughter's success, my sister-in-law made a shocking accusation. She claimed that I had written the winning review in her place. She probably remembered that I used to write novels in college, a fact she likely heard from my husband. And that wasn't even the worst part. Behind my back, she started spreading nasty rumors at my daughter's school. She told people that I had used personal connections with the judges to give her an unfair advantage. These false accusations deeply hurt my daughter. She became so discouraged by the gossip and lies that she lost all interest in her favorite pastime, reading. Seeing her turn away from something she once loved was heartbreaking for me. Not only was my daughter the victim of cruel rumors, not only were they attacking my daughter with cruel gossip, but they were also unfairly attacking me. Before taking any action, I sat down with my husband and told him everything. I shared how his sister had mistreated me from the beginning. I reminded him how she took clothes that were for our daughter, saying that babies didn't care if they wore boy or girl clothes. I also told him how she mocked me during my pregnancy, comparing me to a sumo wrestler. My husband was furious. He agreed that it was time to involve his parents and face the situation together. We went to his sister's house to confront her. At first, she seemed happy, thinking that our visit was friendly. But her excitement quickly turned to surprise when my husband firmly scolded her. Instead of admitting her mistakes, she got angry with me. She accused me of betraying her by telling everything to her favorite brother. She acted as if she were the victim and tried to blame me. At first, I answered her calls, thinking that maybe she wanted to apologize. But I soon realized that she was only talking to complain and continue blaming me. After several calls with the same tone, I stopped answering and sent them directly to voicemail. Approximately 3 weeks later, she finally stopped trying to contact me. I thought she had moved on, but then I discovered that wasn't the case. At the end of that year, my in-laws decided to organize a Christmas party for the children. It was the first time they had done something like that. The timing seemed a little strange to me, but my daughter was excited about the invitation. She had good memories of a Christmas party from when she was in kindergarten, and hoped this one would be just as fun. Unfortunately, her elementary school didn't allow Christmas celebrations due to its strict rules regarding religious events. Sometimes I wonder why some people follow religious traditions so literally, especially when Christmas nowadays is celebrated in many ways around the world. Thinking about this, I decided that my daughter and I would celebrate in our own special way. For the past 3 years, we had enjoyed quiet celebrations at home, and our favorite part was exchanging gifts. This year, my in-laws invited us to their party and organized a gift exchange with a $12 budget. Excited by the idea, my daughter and I went shopping at a nearby mall to find the perfect gift. After looking at several options, she happily chose one of her favorite picture books, eager to share her story with someone at the party. On the day of the event, my daughter went to my in-laws' house with the gift in hand. As their house was a short bus ride away, she told my mother-in-law her plan, and she kindly offered to pick her up at the bus stop later. I received a call letting me know that my daughter had arrived safe and sound, which allowed me to relax for a while. But my peace didn't last long. Less than an hour later, I heard the front door open. The sound startled me because it was a weekday, and I knew my husband was still at work. Since I was working from home during my daughter's winter break, I wasn't expecting anyone. What I saw next broke my heart. My daughter was standing at the entrance with her face covered in tears. She didn't say a single word. Instead, she handed me a carefully wrapped gift bag. The pain in her eyes told me everything. Whatever was inside the bag would explain everything. My heart sank as I took it from her trembling hands, fearing what I might find when I opened it. My hands began to shake. Inside there was a torn newspaper, her book review ripped to shreds. Next to it, a disturbing card written in red ink warned that the toy was also in the bag. The toy was destroyed and covered in red ink made to look like blood. A chill ran down my spine. This was no joke. It was a cruel and deliberate act to scare my daughter. Still in shock, she finally told me the shocking truth. The disturbing gift came from my sister-in-law. I couldn't believe it. This Christmas party was supposed to be a happy event for the children. The adults had agreed not to prepare the gifts themselves, so I never expected something so cruel to happen. Although I didn't go with my daughter, I never would have imagined that someone could do this to her. What made it even worse was what I discovered later. My mother-in-law had no idea that her daughter would be at the party. She had always told us that. But this time it seemed that my sister-in-law had gone behind everyone's back. This betrayal hurt me deeply. I reminded my daughter that she should tell her grandmother what had happened. But before she could, my aunt interrupted with a strange comment. She said that only children from missionary schools were welcome at certain events. My daughter, confused, asked what a missionary school was. It was difficult for me to explain. Recently, a relative had been accepted into one, and it had been a big topic of conversation in the family. My sister-in-law's son had attended a missionary kindergarten, and it seemed that she was using this as another way to criticize us for sending our daughter to a regular public school. My daughter was already overwhelmed by the disturbing gift, and this was the last straw. I decided that I had to take action. Without wasting any more time, I went directly to the police to report the incident. First, the officers didn't take it seriously. They said it was a family matter and should be handled privately. But then, an understanding officer grasped the seriousness of the situation. She explained that threats and harassment, even within the family, were still illegal. She promised to issue a warning to my sister-in-law. That night, when my husband got home, I told him everything. He was furious. Without hesitation, he called his parents and explained what had happened. They were shocked. They insisted that they had no idea their daughter had been at the party. They assumed she might have slipped in through an unlocked back door while my mother-in-law was busy with other tasks. The next day, after the police gave the warning to my sister-in-law, my in-laws decided to organize a family meeting to discuss the situation. When the day of the meeting arrived, my sister-in-law and her husband arrived late. She walked in angrily, clearly irritated that the police had been involved. Her husband, on the other hand, seemed completely bewildered as to why the meeting had been called. When everyone finally learned the truth about what my sister-in-law had done, her husband was in shock. He apologized to us over and over, visibly ashamed of his wife's behavior. His reaction was completely different from hers. While he showed remorse, she remained stubborn. She refused to take responsibility and argued that since the police hadn't arrested her, then she hadn't done anything wrong. Her refusal to admit her mistakes left everyone speechless. And then something completely unexpected happened. Her husband announced that he was filing for divorce. The room fell completely silent. No one had seen any sign that their marriage was in trouble. He then explained that he had been dealing with her behavior for years. Not only had she neglected her responsibilities at home, but she had also caused problems for his family with her impulsive actions. She was obsessed with appearances, which led them to move several times, not because they needed to, but because she wanted to impress others. Many of those moves were related to her obsession with getting her son into elite schools, but each time, things didn't go as planned, and they ended up embarrassed. In the end, her son simply ended up in a regular public school. A decision that his father fully supported, even though she had fought against it. My sister-in-law's recent harassment of our family was the last straw for her husband. It was what finally pushed him to end their marriage. Totally surprised by his decision, she tried to change her attitude immediately. She apologized weakly, saying that everything had just been harmless jokes. But no one believed her. The threatening card, the destroyed toy, and the hate-filled message were far from a joke. What she did was cruel and completely unacceptable. especially because her victim was a child. I confronted her directly. I told her that being a mother doesn't automatically make you a good mother, that it's your actions that really show whether you care about your child or not. She didn't know what to answer. The damage she had caused to the family was irreparable. This time, no one came to her defense. When the meeting ended, it was clear that this wasn't just a breaking point for her, but for all of us. While she remained bitter and refused to change, the rest of the family focused on protecting our children and moving forward. We refused to let her negativity continue controlling our lives. That day, I understood that defending my daughter wasn't only important, but powerful. No matter how difficult the situation, I would always protect her and teach her that kindness, strength, and courage are much greater than cruelty. I looked my sister-in-law in the eyes and told her that her behavior was unacceptable, that she had crossed a line, and that this wasn't something that could be ignored. My husband, clearly frustrated, spoke firmly to her. "Crying isn't going to fix anything," he said. "You're old enough to take responsibility for what you did. Don't expect your tears to make people feel sorry for you." But she kept crying, insisting that she hadn't done anything wrong. Then she turned everything around and started blaming me. She claimed that the family was only upset because I had married her brother, that the real problem wasn't her actions, but the fact that I was older than him. Her refusal to see the gravity of what she had done left us speechless. My husband, in particular, seemed deeply hurt by her lack of accountability. The atmosphere became tense, heavy. It was clear that no solution would be reached, and the conversation ended abruptly. Her husband, visibly embarrassed, took her back home in silence. Even though she refused to accept her mistakes, the divorce process continued. She made it as difficult as possible, refusing to cooperate. But in the end, something unexpected accelerated everything. Her own son, with the innocent honesty of a child, told his classmates about the Christmas party and the disturbing gift. He described in detail how the stuffed animal had been destroyed and covered in red ink to look like blood. His story spread quickly throughout the school. Soon teachers and parents began to worry. This accidental confession generated even more gossip and deeply affected my daughter. She had trouble returning to school. Her spirit was crushed by the whispers and rumors that linked her to the incident. It became evident how a cruel and careless act could have consequences that extended far beyond what was expected, hurting many innocent people in the process. I had hoped that everything could be resolved quietly, giving my daughter time to heal and return to school when she was ready. Her cousin never intended to cause problems by sharing the story. He was just desperate for someone to stop his mother's harmful behavior. When my sister-in-law's husband heard everything his son had said, he was deeply shocked. He decided to accelerate the divorce. He accepted her demands just to finalize the separation as soon as possible. The only thing that mattered to him was moving forward for the well-being of his son. By then, my sister-in-law was already quite well known in the community, but not in a good way. People saw how she had mistreated the children, and her reputation plummeted. Neighbors who had previously treated her kindly now preferred to stay away from her. She felt cornered and rejected. And then she saw the divorce as her only way out. My sister-in-law assumed she could return to her parents' house for comfort, but when she arrived, they refused to let her in. Even they had reached their limit. Meanwhile, her husband remained firm in his decision to keep custody of his son. Surprisingly, she didn't even try to argue. Instead, she coldly replied that she didn't care about her son, claiming that children were a burden, and that he would only interfere with her plans to rebuild her life. Her cruel words didn't go unanswered. Her son, demonstrating incredible strength, told her that he didn't need her in his life. He found comfort and security with his father and even warned her to stay away from my daughter. After being rejected by her own parents, her situation worsened. She struggled to support herself and ended up in debt. Finally, she disappeared completely. My husband and my in-laws decided not to report her disappearance. Her absence wasn't a problem. It was a solution. In the days that followed, my daughter gradually regained her confidence and returned to school. Her cousin stayed by her side, promising that he would always protect her. This experience, however difficult, ended up bringing our families closer. My ex-brother-in-law became a trusted friend, and we worked together to support our children. My in-laws also stepped up, making sure to give both grandchildren all the love and care they needed. Together, we created a safe and happy environment. With my sister-in-law out of the picture, peace finally returned to our family. The trust and understanding that seemed to have been lost amid the conflict began to flourish again. And over time we moved forward stronger than ever.